Hi, and welcome to another episode of Discovering Our Gifts. I'm Jeannie, and with me today are my cousins Lenny and Ani. On today's episode, we'll be discussing mediumship, what it is, the different ways it manifests, and our experiences with mediumship abilities. We hope you will enjoy this discussion.
So let's begin by defining what a medium is. A medium is someone who can connect and communicate directly with spirit or the spirit world. And that spirit can be passed on family, friends, spirit guides, angels, or any divine spirit you connect and believe in. And a medium who dedicates themselves to developing their gifts for the greater good is also known as a spiritual light worker. Matt Frazier, a lot of people know him. He's a pretty well known medium. He has this channel on YouTube as well. He has one video in particular, Signs You Are a Medium. And these are just some signs. They aren't these just general. Seeing and hearing dead people, sensitive to others' energies, emotions, and situations on a deeper level. He mentions emotions you shouldn't be feeling. For instance, an example that he gave was as a child, there should be some emotions that a child shouldn't naturally pick up on. You know what I mean? Like underlying tensions between adults in the room and stuff like that, or they'll be in the room when a movie's being watched and it's complete adult uh topic, the theme of the movie, but the child understands all the emotion underneath it, even though they're not old enough, emotionally mature enough to understand what's going on. They can feel the emotions. Intuitions and knowings. You just know things, like, you'll come across stuff and, you know, visions, images, things like that will pop into your head. Some other things, highly sensitive people tend to be psychics. Not all of them, but they do, a high number of them tend to be psychics. And with that comes anxiety, um, constantly worried about things that, aren't even your things to worry about and all of that. And sometimes in some people, it's from childhood with no known source. One thing everybody really stressed was that mediumship is a responsibility. James Van Prague, he's another medium. He's written several books. He has a YouTube channel as well. And on his one channel, Your Path to Mediumship Starts Here, he says mediumship should be developed and used properly to serve, help, and heal people. The intention has to be grounded in integrity, responsibility, and service because you are working for the spirit world as a medium. So, with all that being said, um, spirit messages from spirit can come in all kinds of forms, as the three of us know, since we've now been experiencing and allowing ourselves to connect more than we did before. We're new to this, very new. But these are things we have been dealing with since childhood. We just never actually that we ran from it instead of dealing with it or developing or understanding our gifts. We always ran from them.
Yeah.
Um, so some of the ways that spirit can speak to you, whether it be your guides, angels, family, friends, loved ones, is through your intuition. You'll get an intuition about them, like you'll just sense that they're there. And you just know intuitively, you'll sense someone's there and you'll intuitively know who it is.
hmm Matt, I believe it was Matt Frazier, whom you mentioned just now. He said one of the ways that you first start hearing spirit, but you don't actually realize that a spirit is when you hear your name being called, but you believe it's a family member that's calling out to you, and you're like, did you call me? or did you call me as so and so? And it's actually, and when no one confirms that they did, there's nobody else in the house, or you're alone, it's spirit, but they're using a family member or a loved one's voice so that you can recognize it and kind of like start tuning into it. You
Yeah.
just don't realize what it is.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I heard him say that in the YouTube video that I realized, I put two and two together. Like, I'd never associated that with spirit. Like, yo para mi
Y
entender,
ahora your
Lo había
intuition is telling
escuchado,
you that it
like,
was somebody's
había
spirit calling
escuchado
you.
eso, pero no,
exactly. And it's weird. It's
no me ha pasado.
freaking me out that she's saying that she's never heard it, because I've heard it all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yo no.
it makes me think, wow, so how long have I been hearing it and I didn't even realize that I was hearing it?
Girl, the level of denials I have realized I was having as we've been going through this, learning, and it's like, oh my God, I never connected that to any type of spiritual gift, and that stuff would happen all the time. And it
Yeah, I
kind
thought
of
it was
like
normal.
freaks you out. Yeah.
So I'm surprised
Um,
she's saying that she's never experienced. She's experienced other things, but not specifically. I thought it was like the norm to hear stuff, hear somebody calling you, it turn out
Y
to be
como tú
nobody.
estás hablando como cosas que no sabías que tenían que ver con eso.
yeah. And I've had it happen. It doesn't happen all the time. And now that I think of it, there have been periods where it would happen a lot more, depending on where I lived. And so, yeah. And
I
now,
remember, like in the houses, I remember running down the stairs, running all the way to the kitchen. What, Mom? She's like, I didn't call you. I'm like, what? I run all the way back, all the way up the stairs and back to my room. And but it's weird because throughout the years, I've always heard people call out to me, but I never associated it with this at all. So I'm surprised.
yeah,
I thought it was normal. I don't know.
yeah, I a lot of stuff. I just it's so weird because it makes me realize like all the times I was surrounded by spirit and I didn't even realize it. I wasn't sensing it back then because I had pushed everything so far away. So,
Well, I mean, they tell you, and a lot of the people that I've heard on and read, they say we're surrounded by spirits and angels all the
all
time.
the time.
All the time. They're very aware of everything that's going on. Their past loved ones also are there all the time. Like, they can hear and see. They know everything that's going on. So, and everything that's gonna happen too.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
Yeah. That was something I had to wrap my mind around because they hear all your thoughts as well. So you start like, oh my God, you start thinking about all the times you thought things or were, private moments and stuff like that. And you just got to learn to get over it. It is what it is. You say, do not disturb, go away. This is private time. And they should respect it. But it kind of freaks you out a little bit when you think back and you're like, oh my God, they were calling out to me. Another one is dreams. So, visitation dreams. We've talked about those in previous Our Dreams episode that we had previously. I get not a lot, but I get visitation dreams from time to time. Friends and family and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. You girls.
My first experience, like receiving a message in a dream, I think the first time it was when I have 27 years, and I received a visitation from my aunt, and I remember I was in her house, and I was in the living room, and she was in front of me, but I was like a little scared when I saw her because she have I don't know how can I say that in English, the color of the skin, it was like pale and bluish purple. And I remember she had a dress, a white dress, but I was scared because the color of the skin, it was very different. So I'm trying to go back. And when I was trying to go outside, she was at the door. So I'm trying to go to the kitchen. So when I'm going to the kitchen, she was there. And I say to my mind, okay, I think you have to ask her what she wants because she's going to follow you, around the house. So I ask her, you want to say something to me? You have a message? And she say to my son, I'm here all the time and I saw everything. And that's the dream. So at the next day, I was so like very surprised because it was my first like visiting spirit with a message, a specific message. And I talked with my mom about that, but I say to my mom, don't say anything um to the son too. And she say that to him. She can keep my secret. So one day he stopped me and he say, oh, I know did you say to me you have a dream with my mom and I want to know what you say. And I told him, um, she said she's here all the time and she see everything. And he say, oh, that's why I feel someone at night touching my hair like this, my head. So I know she's in the home. I know she see everything. But thank you for telling me because now I feel much better. And he was crying. And I was like, oh my God. And I say, I'm so sorry, but that's what you say. You don't say no more, just like that. And she say a specific name. She say your name. Tell to. And so he received the message. So I think it was the first message I received in a dream for someone, like a spirit visiting. But uh, I remember I don't want to talk with my cousin because I was like, you know, like scared to say something wrong. And I remember I have to pass front of the house like every afternoon. So every afternoon when I saw the house, I was like, oh my God, like I'm very like anxious, right? That's the correct word. Because I know something, but I don't want to say that because that's something delicate, you know.
It is.
So I talked with my mom, but my mom said that's something very important, to know. So she tell to him,
Yeah.
yeah. But he
Uh,
received the message, so I don't know. Maybe I did something well, you know, and sometimes you're scared to say something wrong, but you have to remember it's not for you, it's for another person, you know.
The entire intent is to help the other person.
Yes.
yeah.
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 So in some way, it maybe help my cousin in some
Mhm.
way, but I don't know. I don't have to understand. But
Right.
I've had a few of my uncles come through, a few of them, and they've given me different messages. One gave me message of how he was doing, that he was in a good place, that he liked where he was. And then I had another one and it was like scolding me and asking, he was like, why are you always bickering with your husband right before you go to sleep? And so I've had quite a few visitation dreams, but those are the two most recent ones that I've had. But yeah, they come through and they give you a sense of peace, I would say. And at the same time, it's it gives you a feeling of kind of like love, because they're people that you haven't seen in a long time. And it's kind of a little bit emotional at the same time, because you're like really surprised that you're seeing them. Like, oh my God.
It becomes a little bit of like a healing dream because you have that opportunity to interact with them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. But yeah, I've had a few, and my grandmothers, I've seen both of my grandmothers quite a few times in my dreams. Um, but yeah, with in case, do you want to mention yours first, or and
Um,
then I'll jump back to
the majority of my visitation dreams have been spirit guides and ancestors. I've had specific uncles and our grandfather a few times and friends and stuff like that. But the ones that visit consistently are my spirit guides and ancestors. They're always in that same dream world that I dream about every night. And they're always in my home in that dream world. We get into more detail about stuff like that, our dream worlds and stuff in our dreams episode as well. Yeah.
um a point that I did want to bring up was with the responsibility that you mentioned earlier. I don't know if it's the same thing that you were going to mention, but I believe it was Marianne DeMarco in the Medium Mentor. She mentions that as a messenger, you have the responsibility of discerning whether or not to give the message, because
Yeah.
not everybody is going to be receptive to a message. Which is
Yeah.
what Ani was talking about with hers. She wasn't sure whether to give or not the message, because it was a delicate situation and it was pretty close to the passing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Marianne DeMarco in her Medium Mentor book, she talks about the 3 C's: care, consideration, and compassion. Always try to find the positive of every message that is brought to you. Have care and compassion about how you give that message. She also talks about not all messages need to be delivered or are supposed to be delivered. You'll know, your intuition will tell you when it is time. And if you don't listen to your intuition, use that care, concern, and compassion, you can cause them, emotional pain. You can lead them down the wrong road. I can't remember the other part that she mentioned, but it all came back to responsibility, you know, because you're serving the spirit world. You're doing their work to get their messages across to their loved ones and stuff like that. So with that comes a lot of responsibility to do it properly, carefully, and with as much care as you can. Songs is another way. You know, we've mentioned this many times before, that sometimes you can be thinking of someone who passed, and then all of a sudden a song that you associate with that person will start playing on the radio at that exact moment. Things like that will happen with music, to let you know. It's happened with me quite a few times, and the lyrics of the song were actually like answers to questions I was asking in my mind. And it was just like, it happened so frequently, it was too much to be coincidence. So I just started taking them as answers to my questions, because spirit can manipulate electronics. So they can manipulate things when songs are going to come on and stuff like that. They can mess with your internet interference and they'll force you to, get onto another line or network or something, and there's a message for you over there and stuff like that. So music's they're able to use it's a good tool for them to communicate with us.
Electronics, and it's more generally all kinds of electronics they can use. Feedback from our equipment is another
Yeah,
one for us.
speaking of, like, sometimes in our episodes, you'll hear that whispering feedback. We've done everything that we can to eliminate that noise. It doesn't happen all the time. It's none of our microphones. It's nothing like that. It just every time, and most times, those have been days where we have sensed spirit around us. Not always. We've even been able to detect some voices in those whispering feedback noises. Because a friend of mine said, "What's that feedback?" And I had to explain to him, like, "Girl, it just happens. It comes in and out. We've done everything we can to eliminate it." And we started catching voices, like answering questions or responding to statements that we were making as we were recording our
like
conversation.
affirmations.
Yeah, so they will mess with your technology and stuff like that and use it as their own tool to communicate with us through.
Right.
Yeah.
Ani, if I remember correctly, you had an experience with a radio, was it?
I have an experience when I was sleeping. I woke up like 3 o'clock, and I hear a noise like someone have a radio, and the volume was up too loud, and I was like, but I was so sleepy, and I opened my eyes and I say, "Who have the radio on at at 3 o'clock?" And I was here like a radio, like when someone is change the station radio, like but too loud. It was too loud, and I was like, I hear that too loud, and I can't believe someone have the radio on the street or outside. It was not. I hear the radio like it was on someone on the street with a car, or someone have the speaker too loud, something like that. So in the morning, I asked if someone have the radio at 3 o'clock. I asked my neighbors, and my neighbor respond like, "No, I never hear any radio at 3 o'clock." And I was like, "But are you sure?" Because I wake up like like hearing a radio, like someone changed the station. It was so weird, but it was like maybe more, maybe 12 years ago. So I don't know. I didn't know it was related with the spirit or vibration or something like that. But for me, it was very weird and very surprised to me because nobody heard the radio, just only me. And I think it was someone, um, I think it was the radio sound coming like with with my neighbor, the house, on the back of my house. But I asked her, and he never say anything. Like just only me. Yeah, it was weird, weird. So I think now, because I understand a little bit more, I think maybe the spiritual world or spirit tried to connect with me in some way that I don't know, but I think it was that because um I read and I saw a lot of videos saying like when you try to connect with the spiritual world, you have to change like a channel, like a
Frequency.
radio channel to up your vibration. So maybe maybe they try to change my vibration, or they are change the vibration to connect with me, maybe in
Mhm.
a dream or something. I don't know. But I think it was that. I don't know if
Yeah.
you think something like that or not.
Marianne DeMarco's mentor medium mentor, I apologize. She says frequency is trained vibration. So with enough practice, you can align yourself with higher frequencies like radio, tuning into a station. And the more you practice tuning in, the better you get at it. So you have to shift your vibrational frequency, just like radio.
I had two experiences recently. I'm probably the one that's having the hardest time with all of this. And recently I heard a fax machine. It wasn't a radio, it was I had an experience with a radio too, but I heard remember the AOL connection
Mm-hmm.
with the internet? That's what I heard. And then but it sounds similar to when a fax is coming in, or or when you're sending a fax that it's connecting and it says connecting on the screen. That's what I heard. Loud, loud, loud in my room. This was maybe a month or two ago. And it reminded me of Ani's experience. I was like, what the heck was I? Like, I sat up in bed when I heard that. It was in the middle of the night, and I sat up in bed and I'm looking around and I'm like, but it had stopped once I sat up, it had stopped. And then my most recent, I was actually at a funeral, and in the cemetery, um, I heard a loud radio, exactly the way that Ani just described it. A really loud radio. I assumed it was coming from a parked car, and I'm like, how rude can they be? Like, because I didn't think that it was at the time. I didn't think it was anything occult. I was like, okay, who would be having their radio on while we're in the middle of a funeral? That's so rude. I was thinking to myself. So I did, like, the casket is in front of me. I turned my head this way to look at the vehicles that are parked, like to see who has the radio on so loud. And it was like, you could hear like the static, and then you could hear like a man talking really loudly. And so I turned and looked, and it stopped. While I was looking at the cars, I couldn't hear anything. As soon as I would turn my face to look at towards the casket and towards the service, it would start up again, and I could hear it right out of my right ear, and I could hear it, and I'm like, and I turn again, and I look, and I'm looking towards the cemetery to see, and again, silence, just what was going on over here in front of me, and I'm like. And so I tested it out again, and I would look towards the casket, loud as day, this radio just playing. And it wasn't even playing, it was like a man talking. And then you could hear him like changing stations. Like you could hear the change of stations and then the man talking really loud. Exactly the way Ani just described. But as soon as I would turn towards the casket, it was radio full blast. As soon as I turned to look for the radio, silence. It was the
And I think,
weirdest thing ever.
yeah, I think the radio, like how you say, tune it.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think
Yeah,
they're trying to tune you in, and them turn them and them tune down so that you can find that balance.
That balance.
yeah, because they have to go down a little bit to energy
And we have to go
to
way up.
try to find your vibration for connect. So I think it's the the answer or the explication for that, because one of the questions that I have during years is how they know they can connect with us. And because I have experience, like connecting with the spirit, but I have a lot of questions. And I think for me it's something very delicate because I don't know a lot of thing about that. But the most important question for me is like how they know we can connect, because I know not everybody can connect because the vibration is more down. But I was reading and saw a lot of video of James Van Prague,
Rock. Yeah.
and he say like example, he say they have guides or angel. The people who pass away, they have guides and angel on the other side too, like us. We have guides and we have angels. So when they passed away, they a lot of a spirit, they don't know they have they don't know how to connect with us, or they don't know they can connect with us, and they have guides to tell the spirit, if you have something to heal, or you have to say a message for your loved ones, you can do that. They can send a message through the people who are sensitive, because sometimes people, they are more sensitive than others. Some people's are, let me see on my notes, are those people so sensitive who pick up on the finer thoughts forms, the thoughts that you send and project into the mind of the medium, that you might be able to project that.
Mm.
So that's answer one of my question that I have for a long time ago. Because for me, it was very curious, like how they know who people can send message, how they know who can send message, because
Mhm.
it was a
An-
question
another
on my
way that I heard
mind a
it,
lot.
another way that I heard that same question answered was, what's his name? Chip
Chip Coffee.
Chip Coffee gave a really good short explanation of it. He said that imagine that you're in total darkness and you turn on like a lantern or a flashlight, and that little light is moving around in the darkness. He says that's how spirit sees us. The more sensitive people that you just mentioning, he says that's how spirit can see us. They see these little bright lights in the
In the
darkness
darkness.
Yeah.
shining, and that's how they know those are the people that can receive those
Yeah,
thoughts.
because the light, depend of the light, is the depend of your vibration. So
Right.
they have to know who have the the high vibration to connect. And he said, sometimes the spirit have to study the people who are sensitive to know how much they have to put the vibration down to connect. So I think that's what happened when you hear the radio or something like that. I think one of the question, or answer. So for me, it was very curious for a long time ago, like how they know who can send a message, how they know who can connect. But now I think I feel much better after that explication, because so I say, oh, so we have guides and angel, but when they pass away, they have guides and angel too, to help, you know, the process to pass away.
Right.
So they sometimes they're not coming just only to send a message or to other people or family. Sometimes they come in to heal herself too,
Hmm.
because sometimes they feel bad about something happened and they have to heal to, you know,
To move further along in their
yes,
process.
yeah, because they have to move on. Yeah.
And then
So,
if I don't know where I heard or where I read somewhere, when they pass, they're not able to automatically, unless they've lived a lot of other lives, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not able to come back quickly and communicate or to bring messages. They would have to do it through spirit guides or angels to be able to communicate, if I'm not mistaken. When they're like
mhm,
freshly passed, they won't be able to communicate because some of them are stuck in their
They're still
routine.
adjusting
Yes,
to being um spirit, pure spirit, and
right,
not in human body, to understand that they've passed away.
right.
yeah.
There's a dream. There's a movie with Robin Williams in it. It's one of my favorite movies. It's called What Dreams May Come. And in the movie, he passes away, and that's not a spoiler or anything. It's like within the first 5 minutes of it's the basis of the whole movie. And in the beginning, he doesn't understand what happened to him, and he's flickering in and out from the spirit world to the real world, but he can't connect, he can't make sense of what's going on, and his guide is there with him. He at first he couldn't even perceive his guide. He couldn't even see his guide. His guide was like a blurry, person, like just a blur in the form of a person. And little by little, as he got used to it, everything came in focus, and he was able to control more of what he was doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it takes them a minute. And in I I believe this is correct, but don't quote me on it. Like Jewish beliefs, the Jewish people believe that when you pass, you go through an entire year of retrospection on your life lived. And I don't know if that's a year our time or a year their time, because time passes differently depending on
Spirit
the
world.
reality you're in. So, but yeah, there's a lot that say they can't come through right away. Yeah. Highly sensitive people. I think in other episodes, uh all psychics, in other episodes we said how people have mentioned all psychics are mediums. No,
No,
all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pero eso yo tengo,
I
esa,
don't,
esa parte yo
I don't,
tengo, yo entiendo que ellos dicen eso, ¿verdad? Pero hay gente que desarrolla la mediunidad, porque por ejemplo, Susan, ella, bueno, no sé, ella dice que ella
En
no
inglés,
era
en inglés, en inglés.
yeah, in English.
in English.
You don't agree with that because, like, Suzanne Geisman says what?
No, no, because no que no de esto, pero tengo mis dudas.
Say it in English. I
Because
have my doubt.
because
You
how
have your
they
doubts?
people como que como how they people develop the mediumship if they are not born medium. So yo, como tú eres un medium creado o tú eres un medium que naciste, pero puedes ser medium.
Well,
Es lo que
I think
yo,
it's both. I believe it's both because I think there's some people that can easily develop these gifts from a very young age. They start developing these gifts. And some people, you know how in the clairs, you're stronger in certain clairs than you are in others? Well, I think it's the same with mediumship. It's one of the clairs that, well, actually, I think mediumship picks up a little bit from all the clairs. But mediumship you can, I think it's kind of like it's psychic, right? And this whole range is psychic. And this is like on the other side of the range of psychicness. So the way that, I forget the name of the author, but, in the book, The Psychic Witch, he explains that you have to develop your intuition. And the more you work on your intuition and keep on working on your intuition, you keep on developing these psychic gifts. And that's when you'll be able to, as long as you maintain steady meditation and working on those brain muscles that you would use for this, for intuition and for meditation and for mediumship, the more you keep working on it and keep working on it and keep working on it, the more you'll be able to tap into those abilities. That's the way that he explains it in The Psychic Witch. He uses a lot better terminology than I just did, but it
Um,
made to me because, for example, in my case, yes, I'd heard voices calling my name and thinking it was my family members a long time ago, but so many years later, I never knew that I could communicate with spirit until I don't know, I was a teenager or all my life. Ever since I was little, I'd been hearing somebody call me at my house, but it wasn't until now as an adult, a full grown adult, that I'm realizing, yes, I actually do communicate with spirit. I'm not the best at it because I need to work on meditation and I need to work on a lot of other stuff that has to do with it. I need to work on some blockages that I've created within myself and some other stuff, but ultimately I still can access and hear spirit talk to me and give me messages. I'm just not as good at it as some other people are. And I guess with meditation, if I were to actually do the time to actually meditate every single day, just to take time and sit there and meditate and hone in and tune in, I'd probably be I'd probably be able to control that gift a little bit better. I don't know if that makes sense.
most people I have heard, read, seen say that everyone has psychic ability. It's just like the other gifts, like, everyone can run, not everyone's going to be an Olympic runner.
Right.
Um, some people don't need a drawing lesson a day in their life and they can draw an entire portrait, and other people can learn and get there to that
Right.
level, but it takes them a lot more practice and learning and lessons and stuff like that. And
Right.
Marianne DeMarco says that when some people consciously develop their psychic ability, they end up developing their medium mystical ability as well. So
Right.
sometimes you're trying to develop these abilities over here and your mediumship's over here. And he's like, yeah, hello, I'm awake now.
Right. And
And
then
you start, yeah.
And then one important factor is your mental blocks. If you and I think it's one of my problems. I'll call it a problem because it's something I'm working with. But fear, doubt, and expectations are things that can cause a blockage within you. So I grew up in a house where I was scared all the time when I was little. And then again, when I was a teenager, I lived in this. So I don't know if I was able to probably do this from when I was little, but I've been so scared of this thing that when I hear a voice talk to me, I automatically jump or, my reaction is fear. So I've probably been blocking myself for years. And that's why I hadn't developed. It's maybe one of the reasons why I hadn't
I think
developed
it
the
is.
gift. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's the main one.
Depend
And
if,
then,
but
at
I
least
think
for
it's
me, mm,
depend if you want to develop the mediumship.
exactly. For
I
example,
think
me,
so.
it wasn't something that I wanted to do.
Me neither.
I'd never wanted to communicate because for me, it was scary. It wasn't, I wasn't looking at this whole thing as something positive. I wasn't looking at it from that point of view. I was looking
But
at
I
it
think
from you know,
yeah, but I
Scary
think
negative
person to
place.
yes,
yeah,
and it's
because I
not
think
good.
everybody have a scare, because that's something normal. So
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
But
well,
something normal. But
there's
if you want to
fears,
develop
and then
the medium,
you've experienced terrifying experiences that reinforce those fears.
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, but I did,
I had both. Mhm.
yeah, I
And
think
then
I think it's something normal because I think you always you always care for something, in life. But I think it's depend of your conscience. How do you say?
your
Conciencia?
consciousness,
Yes, that. So I think if you create another, no puedo hacerlo.
pero que
Another
quiere
type
decir.
of consciousness.
Yes.
Ujú.
Mhm. Because I know it's care is something that you can take away from your mind, right? So if you want to develop something, you have to take away, the scare
Yes,
out.
you have to work on your blockage.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Fears.
So I have a lot of question, like not question, how you say dudes, no,
Doubts.
Doubts.
doubts. So I have a lot of question because or not question, like doubts. Because sometimes people say medium born being medium, and some of other mediums develop the mediumship. But I think if you want to be a medium, I think you can do that. If meditate and you find the correct people, to guide you, or because you have to be patient with that, because it's a lot of question, and you have to understand the spiritual world, um and you have to know yourself first. I think it's a process, and I think you have to start with you first. I think you have to make a process with yourself first, to know you, you know, to know the spiritual world, because sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes if I receive a message and I don't understand, I have to know that's not my message. That's not for me. That's for other people. So I don't know if I'm a medium or not, like, because I don't know if God want something for me. Es un revolú lo que dije ahí.
You're
What?
not sure
Ah,
if
¿verdad?
your purpose is to be a full-time medium.
Yeah. So I don't know if God want me to do a medium or a purpose, but I have a few experience, and I asked to myself, like, okay, so I'm trying to find information about that, but it's a process. So I don't know, but I think some people born, being medium, but I think you can develop, if you want it.
Yes.
I think so. But it's a process. Sometimes, if you're born being medium, I think it's more easy for you. But at the same time, you have to find information to control everything, because you don't understand what you're doing. Sometimes
Mhm.
people don't know, and you scare about that,
Mhm.
because I have a lot of experience, and sometimes made me feel like, before, not now. Now I feel much better, because I think I'm finding good information. I think I found a good books to help me. But before, I feel like ¿cómo se dice? Insegura.
Unsure.
Insecure.
I feel like insecure, because I don't know. uh, I don't know what kind of message receive, and I don't know where it's coming, because sometimes when you have experience and you don't know where it's coming from, the light or the spiritual light, you don't know where it's coming from. So normally you think like it's something coming for the dark side, and if you don't understand, you feel insecure. Like me, I feel insecure before, but now I'm trying to, when you want to know something and you try to find about that, it's a process too. And you can pick everything, like, okay, this is help me, this does not help me. So you have to pick the good things to help you. And it's a process. And I say thank you, God, because I'm finding good books and I can share with Jeannie or Lenny or whatever people or the books try to help. I'm trying to share the information too because it's helped me a lot. And now I learned something. Um, you have to think like a spirit of war is sometimes normal in a positive way, and you have to choose if you want to work for the light, or the light for the white light, or the dark side. So I always prefer, you know, the light side
Yeah.
because I don't want to know nothing about the dark side because it scare me. And I know it's a process. I think I'm in first grade or kindergarten now, you know, and yeah, because if you decide to be a medium, it's a big responsibility. So you have to
Mhm.
sure if you want to do that because you have to work for the spiritual world. So you have to work for the spirits. So your work is going to send a message, but you have to be careful. Not because you're going to send a message for someone. It's like something simple. You have to be careful with yourself. You have to protect yourself because you don't know. Um, sometimes, no sé cómo decirlo. Que si tú no te proteges, te puede hacer un poco de daño si no
If you
sabes lo
don't
que estás
protect
haciendo.
yourself,
It can affect you.
yeah, it can be dangerous to yourself.
Hmm.
So if you don't protect yourself, it can be like dangerous for you. So you have to make sure if you want to do that and you try to find information. Um, for my experience, I'm trying to find everything about mediumship or how works that and experience, like experience, people talking about experience. And I found more information in English, like in American, because in Spanish, a lot of thing is on the dark side, and I don't want to talk about that. And you know, but my experience, I connect with the spirits. I think more than 7 times, and it's always something positive, nothing bad. So I'm trying to see the mediumship like something normal, something positive, and something to heal, something to help. And and you have to be careful how you send the message for the people.
Some of the other ways and forms that spirit can speak to you, you've got animals, numbers, and things like unexplained events. So, sometimes, as far as the animals, sometimes you'll see birds and stuff like that. Like if you knew, again, it's similar to the songs. If you knew they were familiar with a certain bird, or if you're thinking of someone and all of a sudden you hear a bird chirping and singing, that could be your loved one or spirit letting them know. they're there with you.
Mhm.
As recurring series of numbers, you know, we've talked about that on our signs and synchronicities. That can also be a thing, like if you're thinking of them and you see that number 11, 11, 12, 12, 333. That's a little wink from them. I like to say they're like giving you a little wink, like I'm here with you. I know you're thinking of me. Then you have things like visions. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you have things like unexplained events, like lights turning on and off, or the smell of someone's perfume when you're alone, things moving and stuff like that. That stuff has happened to me. The lights and light bulbs and things moving and stuff. I explained on another episode that one day I walked into the house and I felt spirit, and they'd been in that particular house, they were really active. And I would come in from leaving from somewhere. I'd come into the house and cabinets would be open that I hadn't left open and stuff like that. Or something would fall by itself and scare the living crap out of me, and stuff like that would happen so much that when as soon as I walked into the house that day and I sensed someone was there, I was like, "Don't scare me. Just don't scare me. I'm not in the mood today." And I kept walking into the house, walked into my room, turned on the light, and as soon as it turned on and it blew out. In that moment, we were having light bulbs blow out on us all the time, to the point where my husband was like, "Have you noticed we're constantly changing the light bulbs everywhere we go?" And stuff like that. Um, yeah, so those are just a couple of my experiences with things like moving around, or sometimes you'll hear banging. Um, this one house I lived in Delaware, my husband worked night shift and I would be up late sometimes waiting for him. And all the time around 3 to 3:30 in the morning, I would hear knocking on the front door. And back then I didn't know about any of this stuff. A couple of times I opened the door like, who the hell is out here? You know, after I checked that there was no one out there, like I looked through the window and then I opened the door. I'm like, what the hell? Closed it. That was one and only time. But then I kept hearing the knocking, you know, around that time all the time. It was just, you know, the light bulb experiences are fine. It's the things moving, slamming, knocking. I don't like those.
I had a recent experience with a light bulb. I was actually on the phone with Ani. Um, I was in a bathroom, and I've had where the light bulbs keep going out in that bathroom, and we constantly changing it.
And you've suspected for a while now.
Yes, that I would see someone going into the bathroom. Um, and then I would wait for someone to come out of the bathroom, assuming that it was either my son or my husband, and then no one would have come out. And then I figured it out that I was seeing something go in, but it wasn't any of my family members. So the light went out, and it went out almost completely. And I was in pitch black in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So I'm telling her, I'm like, listen, I'm going to have to hang up because I'm in the dark in the bathroom. I turned on my flashlight from my cell phone, started calling my husband to bring me like a candle or something so that I wouldn't be in the dark in the bathroom. And he's like, I was like, do we have another light bulb to change? And he's like, no, but I'll get one tomorrow or whatever. So we didn't have, so we, you know, we were with this light bulb, the pitch black bathroom. Um, the next morning, we get up early in the morning and it's still dark. That light bulb was working just fine. The light, it was working just fine. It was just out while I was in the bathroom during the nighttime. That's it. It came back to normal around 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, see, that's never happened to me.
Hmm.
They've just blown out, like
Hmm.
done.
Well,
Never had them come back on.
yeah, usually that's been the experience where we had to change the light bulb, but in this case, the light started working again just fine the very next day.
And you, Ani, you've never experienced any like
Tony,
thing
what
like
happened?
that, light bulbs going out,
Oh yeah, all the
things
time in the
moving.
kitchen. The kitchen light is always problem.
It's always
Yeah.
going out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Have
And
you ever
it's always
sensed someone around when it's going out?
um yeah, in the kitchen and the dining room, in the area, the dining. Yeah, but I think that's normal for me now. I'm tired about that. So I say, okay, I'm trying to be more positive about that and not scared because I know when I'm going to pass away, I think I'm going to do the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
friend of mine and I had we said we were gonna come up with secret words. So if either of us passed away before the other, that would be the word to let each other know I'm here. Type stuff. Yeah.